Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of the Barnack Hour. It's just me, not gonna be a whole hour, and we're not really gonna talk about Leica cameras. Here's why. A bunch of you have asked to see my photographs and to get a sense of what kind of photographer I am, or just to, be curious. And I love it. I'm super flattered by that. So I want to show you some of my favorite photographs that I've taken, and I'll tell you a little bit about them. And you might say, Tamarkin, you said you're not going to talk about cameras, but what's that in front of you? Well, I will show you my two favorite cameras. Most of the photographs that we're going to look at in this brief video were taken by me on one of these two cameras, a Leica M2 with a 50mm lens. I happen to love the button rewind. I just think it's a super sexy camera, and this has been my baby. Not this one, but this model. And so a lot of the photographs that we're gonna see today were taken with this camera, with this model camera and this model lens. Also in front of me here is the Leica M10R. This is a digital full frame camera with a 50mm Noctilux lens, which actually none of the photographs that I'm gonna show you today were taken with. But this is a good example of the other kind of camera I use, which is a digital monochrome camera. And just so that you could see the form factor and just to have another camera in front of me, I thought I'd include it. Anyway, most of the photographs that I've taken were made with either a Leica digital camera or a Leica M2 film camera, because these are my favorites. So this first picture that we're going to look at, this picture was made actually at the very beginning of a photo workshop, and it was before the workshop even started, and I walked by and saw the buildings and was like, holy wow, that's great. Click, and I got this photograph on the very first shot, which I'm overjoyed about, and it's one of my favorite photographs. It's called On Wrangler Drive. I didn't know what else to call it. I typically don't even title my photographs, but that just helps me remember what it was. And it was taken here in Chicago on a Leica M9 camera with a 50mm Summicron lens, very similar to this one. And it's a terrific photograph. I think it's a terrific photograph. I'm very proud of it. And so that was made at a fairly low ISO value. I want to say it was probably like 400 at the highest. None of these images are treated. They haven't been treated at all. So these are really straight out of the camera. The only thing that I do on occasion, and you may notice this in a couple of the black and whites we're going to look at, is that I do sometimes bump up contrast. And I also like to take steps to mitigate highlights that I may have blown, if I have blown them. And basically I keep my photoshopping limited to what we could do in a traditional wet darkroom. So none of these photographs have been photoshopped or processed in any real meaningful way. Let's see, what's next? It's on Whacker. Oh, at the Fly Honey Show. So every year here in Chicago, well, the pandemic notwithstanding, but every year here in Chicago, I think in August, the Fly Honeys do a terrific show that's a kind of a burlesque dance show with a giant cast of fabulous people of all shapes and sizes. And it's really a wonderful, wonderful show to be at. And they were kind enough to allow me in with my Leica M9 monochrome camera. And this image was made with a 35 Summilux, the currently manufactured 35 Summilux FLE lens. And it was made probably wide open. And I want to say the ISO value on this, you might be able to tell, is probably on the order of 4,000 or 5,000 ISO. And again, I'm very pleased to have been granted access to the Fly Honey Show. If you're here in Chicago, you get a chance to check it out. I wholeheartedly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. Let's see what's next. And so that's black and white. The Fly Honey image, that's very indicative of my style. I do a lot of photographs that are architectural, and they have no people in them. And some people say, you got no people in your picture. And I'll have to quote Ansel Adams, who said something, or paraphrase Ansel Adams, who said, there are always two people in my photographs, the photographer and the viewer. So make of that what you will. This image was taken with a Leica Deluxe 6, I think. No, Deluxe Type 109, that's what it's called. And it was made in Havana. I gave a copy of this to my brother recently for his birthday, and he was like, wow, man, this looks like a painting. Biggest compliment I ever got on this picture. I happen to love this photograph. I took it on a whim, just walked by, looked very painterly to me. I was working on the blue thing. I really love architecture. I like geometric stuff. And so this is another one of my photographs that doesn't have any people in it, but I'm very pleased with it. And I hope that you enjoy it too. Havana, the blue of Havana, I think is what I titled this, even though I don't really title my photographs. But anyway, this photograph I was very pleased with, and it was one of my favorites from that visit that year in Havana. Also from the Havana area, this next photograph was made on the Leica M Type 246 in an area about 2 hours southwest of Havana called Vinales. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. If you get a chance to go, I highly recommend it. Don't go to Cuba without going to Vinales. The people are wonderful. The food is exquisite. Of course, if you like cigars, there's no better on earth. And it's just an incredibly beautiful place, which actually has some features, geological features that are present only in Cuba and in China. I don't even know, rock outcroppings that are called, in Spanish, they're called mogotes. And if you see photographs from Vinales, you'll almost certainly see the mogotes in the background there. They're like these humps that look like little mountains, but they're just like, they look like gumdrops, grass-covered gumdrops. Anyway, I was in Vinales, and I had the opportunity to visit this gentleman's tobacco farm, and I asked him if I could take his photograph. He said, sure. And he sat down and he leaned back in the chair, and I took the photograph, and with a 35 millimeter Summilux lens, 35 f1.4, and then only later when I went to process the photograph did I notice the little dog sitting under the chair. Anyway, I just love this fella as a person because I was able to meet him and speak with him, and we had a very enjoyable conversation. Myself, this gentleman, his wife, and his son who runs the tobacco farm where he was pictured. Anyway, I love this photograph, and I just love the lines in his face. I love what he was wearing. I love that there's nothing other than the lighter in his hand. There's nothing that would tell you what time it's from, and nothing that would tell you where it was from. I mean, there's nothing plastic. There's nothing inauthentic. To me, this is just absolute authentic portraiture. For me, this is the stuff that I really like to do. And also, I realized as I'm saying this and going through these photographs that I have here a bank of photographs that were made in Cuba. I've been fortunate enough to visit half a dozen times. And this next photo that we're looking at is called Along the San Lozano, which is the name of the street that I was on when I took this photograph from a car. I'm crazy about architecture, and I love this building. I actually went back the next year with an array of photographic gear to make pictures of this particular very deco-looking building. I just fell in love with this building, and I got really lucky when I captured this photograph out of a moving car. We were probably going about 25 or so miles an hour, and you can tell if you look closely in the image in kind of the lower left-hand quadrant, you can see the reflection of my traveling companion there in the image, reflected in the car window. And so anyway, this is one that it's not composed exactly as I wished I had, but again, I was in a moving car, and I'm just very glad that I got this photograph to begin with, and I'm extremely satisfied with it. And it just goes to show you that wearing a camera and being ready to shoot in any instance can, at some times, in some instances, get you really terrific shots that make you very happy. Whether or not it makes anybody else happy, I can't say, but I'm overjoyed with this picture. And I have a print of it also hanging in my home, and I've given it away as a gift on a few occasions, and people, at least out loud, have told me that they really enjoy it. This next image I took, I was on LaSalle Drive here in Chicago looking south. Towards the end of LaSalle. Unfortunately, this scan is not terrific, so you can't really see any detail in that building. But what you do notice is the three police on horses with their backs to you. Of course, this one I had to call Hear No Evil, Speak No Evil, See No Evil, or something along those lines. You can switch that up any way you like. But this was taken during a protest in, I think, 2015. Or 2014, this is made on a Leica M2 camera, button rewind with a 50 millimeter lens. Probably stopped down a little bit. I shoot almost exclusively with Ilford films. I can almost guarantee you that this was taken on Ilford HP5. I like this photograph a lot. And I don't know, it just seems, as I look at it, as the years go by and I look at it, especially in these last couple of years, it seems all the more poignant to me. But this is a shot that I'm very proud of. Next is a photograph. This was taken on an Olympus OM1. Please be kind. This is a photograph. I was hiking in the Boundary Waters along the Cowishiwi River, the north branch of the Cowishiwi River. And I just saw this reflection in the water, pointed my camera down, made this picture. And again, it's something, I don't expect anybody else to enjoy it as much as I do, but I'm very proud of this photograph. I like it very much. I have no idea what film stock I was using. I was a student. I had no money. I probably was using whatever was cheapest. I don't know what lens I was using, but I had a 24 2.8 Olympus lens that I used a lot on that camera. This image doesn't look like a 24mm lens to me, so I think it might have been a 35 or a 50. Really, I don't remember. But I would have this Olympus OM1 with me all the time, and I did a lot of hiking and canoeing with it until it finally tumbled its way about 1,000 feet down Rocky Arroyo, Rocky Mountainside, and I just watched the thing just smash into oblivion on its way down. And it went down literally 1,000 feet, and I couldn't recover it. And so unfortunately, I lost that roll of film as well as the camera. And then of course I had to get something else. So I think I got, I think that the next one was a Pentax K1000 or something like that. Anyway, I love this picture of the Cowishiwi, North Branch of the Cowishiwi River. It also has a very, it's sentimental to me because it was one of my first trips to the Boundary Waters in northern Minnesota, Voyageurs National Park it's known as. And I just fell in love with the Boundary Waters, and I return as often as I can, and I always bring my camera. Now let's see, what's next? Now I gotta look at my list because I don't remember. Oh, okay, this image was made, in California. It was made in the High Sierra of the California, looking towards the Nevada desert. Is that right, Nevada? Yeah, I guess so. Anyway, I was standing up at about 12,500 and it was getting to be dusk, and I just saw this beautiful scene, and so I tilted my camera vertically to get a little bit of foreground. This is Lake Brainard, is this lake, and it's a big, beautiful bristlecone pine tree sitting in there. And to get everything from near to far, this image was taken on a shitty plastic Vivitar camera with a plastic lens that I think I got as a thank you gift for donating to someone or something. I mean, this was a real piece of shit camera. Made a good image. This was also when I was a poor student and probably using the cheapest film I could find. I have no idea what the film stock was, but it was probably a 40mm f3.5 lens. I just remember it was a plastic Vivitar camera. It was a real piece. But I would carry it on my backpack, and so I lashed it to the shoulder strap of my backpack. So it was always like banging up against me as I hiked, and anytime I wanted to take a picture, I would just draw it up and click, and it had a little flash. You know, there was no focus. It was all automatic camera, so you couldn't go wrong. Anyway, just goes to show you a shitty camera can take a pretty good picture. Or at least I think it's a good picture. I'm very proud of it. It's one of my favorites. And then, you know, last but not least, I wanted to include a photograph. I made this photograph on a Leica M6 camera with a Voigtlander 15mm super wide Heliar f4.5, the very first version of the lens. And I just found it was so much fun to be able to get in so close, you know, like Kappa said, you know, Robert Kappa said, well, if you're not happy, if your pictures aren't any good, it's because you're not close enough or something like that. Anyway, using the Voigtlander super wide 15mm lens not only allowed me to get in closer, but it kind of forced me to get in closer. And so if you're in the Chicagoland area and you get a chance to see Muka Paza, go see them. They are so much fun. They're a punk rock marching band, and I'm telling you, if you're not tapping your feet during this show, you have no soul. Go see Muka Paza. They're fantastic. Anyway, this was a street festival. It was on Division Street here in Chicago. I want to say this is 2014. 2013, maybe, something like that. I'm not really sure exactly, but this was made on film, Ilford HP5. It was made with an M6 that my dad loaned me. And I used the Voigtlander super wide Heliar for this picture. And I did overexpose it a little bit, I think, but the kinetic action of the photograph is one of the reasons that I chose it to show you today, because I think it is kind of emblematic of the kind of stuff that I like to shoot. So there you have it. There's a little bit about me, a little bit about my photography. I take lots of pictures. I love it. There's always more to learn. I don't think of myself as much of a photographer. I just take photographs of what I like. Sometimes I get compliments. Sometimes I make sales. Sometimes people go, isn't that nice? I mean, you just never know. Makes me happy. And that's all anyone can ever do, I think, with their photography, is take photographs that make you happy. And if they make somebody else happy, hooray, that's awesome. But I just shoot what I like. I shoot what I see that intrigues me. And I've been taking pictures since I was about 14 or 15 years old, and I started on a Pentax K1000. Eventually I got the Olympus OM1 set, and then a Leica 3F, and then eventually I got my M2. But I didn't start taking lots of pictures until I could afford the film, and it was really, it kept me back a little bit. But as I shoot more and more, I recognize how important it is to always wear a camera, and don't worry about the cost of the thing, because snapping the photograph is the most important part. And even if it takes you years to develop, to get around to developing it, or to afford to develop it, you still will have made the photograph. And that ultimately is the most important thing. So get your ass out there, put film in your camera or a memory card up in your camera, whatever it is you use. Get out there and take some pictures, have fun, and get some enjoyment out of it. I know I do. I hope this has been enjoyable for you too. And I hope that maybe you'll leave me some comments that will help me better my own photography. So thanks so much for watching, and hit the like and subscribe button and ding-a-ling thing, wherever that is on your screen, and you can keep up with more videos from the Barnack Hour and learn more about Leica and maybe about photography in general too. Thanks so much for watching.